Jonathan Martin in the New York Times 6-8 months ago had an absolutely wonderful piece on the cauldron of GOP politics in Arkansas. It is arguably the litmus test of the future of the Republican Party. What has changed in the GOP debate in your district, in your state, in the last 6 weeks?
Well, in the last 6 weeks, we're talking about redistricting. In my district, I lose part of Pulaski County, Tom, which is Metro Little Rock, and I pick up an additional rural county, Cleburne County, which is next to two big counties that I already have in that region. And I'd say the party has become definitely more conservative as we see Democratic quorum courts out in those rural counties having county judges run either as independents or switching to the Republican Party. That's a major trend.
All right, as we help Tom Keene curry favor with his domestic situation, I'm wondering for Valentine's Day, given the fact that prices are going up, I mean, aside from that particular holiday, how do you expect to address the fact that it seems persistent? How do you expect to address the fact that, yes, the president is leaning on the Federal Reserve, but there is a legislative aspect to this?
Well, Lisa, as I've said for many, many appearances on this program and other programs, we need to not be spending so much borrowed money in such a continued pandemic manic manner. We need to go back to pre-pandemic spending priorities on the fiscal side, while the Treasury withdraws its accommodation on its balance sheet in terms of the amount of Treasury securities that it's buying, and then slowly lifts interest rates. Well, those are two key points, I think, to lowering inflationary expectations.
Congressman, in fairness, we are cutting spending, that actually you're seeing this fiscal drag that everyone's talking about, and it is going down. And there is a feeling that if the government does invest in things like renewable energy and certain programs, we could avoid some of the shocks that we're seeing currently with oil. What's your view on that?
Well, look, you look at the Energy Information Agency's predictions for needed fossil fuel production, electricity increases between now and 2050, you're not going to produce that through renewables alone. It's not physically possible to do that. We need to continue to replace our reserves and increase our supply in fossil fuels. And I believe sincerely that we should continue to invest in cheaper, more efficient, more effective nuclear power in this country and around the world in order to fuel the energy demands that both industrial and consumer needs are projected to need over the next 25 to 30 years.
Franco, the linkage here on a constructive jobs report Friday with a lot of amendments, we get that, is wages up, and we've got the inflation report coming out on Thursday. Tell me about near fully employed Arkansas, and this is your wheelhouse as a former, local banker. What is the wage story you're hearing from business in Arkansas right now?
Well, first, we're about 9,000 jobs below February 2020 before the pandemic, Tom, in terms of employed Arkansans. So that's a key point. And I'm seeing wage pressure increase both at the low end and the high end, particularly in healthcare, for example. In your previous discussions this morning, you talked a lot about low-end working salaries going up and being on pressure to go up. But we're seeing that in the professional ranks, particularly in healthcare, where these wage increases that we saw in the pandemic just to get people to stay on the job, they're being embedded into the system. So we're seeing wage increases in the 4 and 5% range and higher. And I think that's reflected in the 9% producer price index that we saw at the end of the year.